Hello and welcome to Riftbound PhD. I'm Raphael, your physics PhD who is trying to learn Riftbound. I've only started playing Riftbound in Set 2 when Spiritforge launched, and I am very excited about this game. It's the first TCG that I ever started playing, and I just feel that there's so much to learn that it would be worth trying to do a second PhD now in the Riftbound League of Legends trading card game. During our recent local Unleashed pre-Rift, I actually pulled the pre-constructed Master Yi deck, but ended up playing the Rengar because I pulled the alt art champion unit, the red one, as well as the legend. And yeah, it went pretty well. I ended up second place, 3-1. And yeah, I'm going to talk you through my ideas that I had during this deck, my observations I made. And I'm very curious to hear what you think about this deck, what you think about the choices that I made when assembling it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this type of videos. As mentioned before, we are playing the Rengar Pridestalker Legend. To be honest, in hindsight, I think I would not use the Legend card because I think I used its ability only once or twice throughout the tournament, but I pulled it and I also pulled the Chosen Champion, so I played it. We pulled the alt art Rengar Unseen. It's a really cool card, I think. It doesn't have that much going on in terms of the art kind of at the bottom where there's all the keywords. But playing with it, actually, you really feel strong because every single time you attack a battlefield, you get Assault 2, so this is instantly a 6 might body. Deflect, I think, for the pre-release didn't play that much of a role. Also the Accelerate, I ended up not using it that much because most of the time when I used it, or once or twice I used it, I just instantly died because of some counter spells, some stun counter spells that the enemy had. But then of course the ganking is huge. So if you can put a gear onto this Rengar, he instantly gets to a 6 or 8 or even 10 might monster that just jumps from battlefield to battlefield. Not so much to say here. I ended up playing Forbidding Waste in every single one of my games, and that's primarily because I found already in the first game that it makes the enemy not really want to conquer here. And as a Rengar, with all the assault stats that we have in our deck, it's actually quite good if we can always just try to capture one battlefield and not both at the same time. And then of course every time if you are ganking from battlefield to battlefield with your Rengar unit, you can always just play a second card like a 2-drop, a 3-drop onto that battlefield and then hold it without getting the -2. Then as our runes go, I played 6 Fury runes primarily because I have 2 accelerated red units, the Jhin and the Rengar. I would say the ratio between red and orange was fine for this particular deck. I also played 2 Mind runes just because I had pulled a Ruined Rex. Probably to the most interesting part of the deck, that's our units. And as you can see here, as far as 2-drops go, there's a 2 of the Gemhand Hunter, just a very solid 2 for 2. The level 6 I think I only reached in one game, where I developed the Gemhand Hunter on first turn, and it ended up with also the Huntersmith Heady, such that it would always score 2 XP. But that's just a nice 2-drop that was also already in the pre-constructed Master Yi deck, and so I just liked playing it. And then the Martian Diplomat, I think that was also already in the Yi deck. And because I didn't have good 2-drops in red, I also played this this blue Iceveil Archer. I think I almost never used its ability because I just preferred putting many bodies on the board rather than trying to really conquer with that. So these 2-drops I always only played in turn 1 or turn 2, I would say. Then I think one of my absolute favorite cards in Unleashed is the Kinku Initiate, where it's actually quite easy to get 5 total might for a bunch of units by turn 3 or 4, and then having that draw is actually quite amazing. And then because there's also a bunch of mechanics that send units back to your hand, it's a possibility that you can actually play that several times in a game. Now on to probably my surprise favorite unit, the cute little Sharkling. He looks quite vicious, and I think he is an absolute menace, especially in these pre-release games. And the reason is that you just play him to base. You don't even necessarily have to accelerate. Of course, you can accelerate it when you feel like you need the might on that particular turn, but then you just have him sit in your base and make the enemy wonder whether they can even try to capture a battlefield just because you have a 5 might body, of course with his assault 4, and then together with the 6 might that you get from your Rengar, that's just really, really strong. So I think you want to not capture with him. You'd want to kind of wait and have him sit in your base if you have other units that can do the conquering, and then just be there as a menace for the enemy. And then of course if the enemy ends up overextending, you can swoop in and get that relatively easy conquer of the battlefield. Crowd favorite I never ended up playing. I think I just had enough good other 3-drops with the Kinku Initiate, with this Sharkling, and with our Diana. So when I opened all of my bags, all of my packs, I basically saw the Diana and the Ruined Rex as I think kind of rare-ish and very strong cards in blue, and that's what made me choose to play blue. The Diana, the predict mechanic, is kind of nice. As you will see, we also play a bunch of spells, so getting to draw a spell for free for just one is actually quite strong. Also because overall this deck doesn't have that much card draw. Also, as mentioned before, our Jin, the Murderous Artist, he's a really nice 4-drop. I think he gets ganking, so he can get a lot of value from the Blighted Battle Axe. And you also add resources through him moving, which can make a big difference if you think about it. So for instance, by just moving, you can then accelerate another unit with the 1 power, 1 might that he, one energy, 1 power that he gives. So I played around him quite a lot. I usually used him to kind of reinforce a battlefield after capturing, for instance, with the Sharkling, and that went quite decently. The Master Yi, as mentioned before, because I didn't really get to level 6, I didn't really get to stack that XP in most of the games. I barely developed him because, I mean, he's a good 4 for 4, but I ended up mostly playing for the higher energy power units. And the same kind of goes for the newt fish. Usually by the time you want to bring a 4-drop, I already have enough energy to play one of the 5 or 6 drops. Fate Weaver I misread when I first constructed the deck, and I thought it was going to give me any spell with might 7 would cost 4 or less. Now it turns out it's actually energy cost 4 or more, and as you will see, there's only 1 or 2 spells in this deck. So that was a bit of a fail on my side, also because it's a 5 for 4, so not too strong necessarily. But then the 6 for 6, we have 3 here. These are absolute menaces. So Ruindrex is insane, especially if you conquer a battlefield and then play him into the battlefield. It becomes almost impossible for the enemy to play around that. And because the death knell, I think I basically won the game game 1 against the Diana player thanks to his death knell ability, where they were only able to clean out the battlefield rather than conquering it, and then I was up in points at that point. Okay, I mentioned already, as far as spell go, there's 7 here. A big reason why I used or why I chose red, besides of course the Rengar and the Jhin, were these 4 spells that all feel quite strong. So the upstage comedy of course is great if you capture a battlefield with the Sharkling and then want to get him back to base, to safety, because as a sitting 1 might unit, he is quite prone to just being killed on the enemy's next turn. But then also the Vault Breaker is kind of a menace if you put it on one of the, for instance, the Ruined Rex or one of the other larger units when you play them to reinforce one of your battlefields. So I played this, I think, in 2 games. I ended up using it. Smite is just great removal. You also can get rid of some of the smaller units that have really oppressive abilities like this. I think it's this purple Poro that just sends stuff back onto your hand. Yeah, then I played, I think Eclipse I used almost every game because it's just so good. It basically makes a believed to be safe battlefield into a like a battlefield that the enemy thinks they can hold into a battlefield that they absolutely can't hold, just because you take off the 4 might. Square Up I played, I think I used only once. The repeat effect is of course amazing, and because I had decent card draw, I always was able to just discard one of the small 2-drops, which I didn't need anymore. Concentrate is nice, but I only use it in the 1 game that I got to more than 6 XP. Otherwise I think it's just too expensive. And Moonlight Affliction actually ended up winning me one of the games where they took a point lead and then just poured everything they had into the battlefield that they were trying to hold. And this was, I think, quite a surprising move. So with even only a few of the assault units at my base at the beginning of the turn, I was able to take out one of their large units, basically for quite cheap, so 7 giving -10 is of course really good, but it's only really good against large enemy units. Okay, Hunter's Machete, it was the only gear in orange or blue that I had, and it was, I mean, it basically works like a Doran's Blade, just costs 1 more. But in general, just having standing might there on the battlefield kind of at all times is just very strong. Might that you can kind of recycle, even if the unit that carries the mission. And finally, the nemesis of my pre-rift, the Blighted Battle Axe. I included it because I felt that it was just a very strong gear with the +4 might that it gives. But of course it comes at quite heavy costs. First of all, the equip cost is 1 energy and 1 red power, which, I mean, it's expensive, but I think it's still fine given the +4 might that it gives. But then the one game that I actually lost on the night of the pre-rift, I pretty much single-handedly lost to to this equipment and my misunderstanding and misusing of its effect. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for joining me on this exciting journey to becoming a Riftbound PhD. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments which legends you're excited for when playing Unleashed. See you next time!